Joey August, class of South Salem 2005.
0, 1, 2, 3. Let's get started.
Today we're joined by 2005 graduate Joey August. Joey's years as a Saxon were filled with athletic dominance, especially against the teams I was on. As a three-sport athlete, he loved all the practices and games with his coaches and teammates, and he was even part of that 2004 state basketball championship, as well as earning a semifinal berth in baseball. Joey also loved taking leadership class with his mom and even met his wife at South. Beyond high school, Joey attended Stanford University, where he played baseball and was drafted by the New York Mets in 2009. He and that other Saxon grad, Sarah Jane, married and are now the parents to two kids, Declan and Ramsey, who Joey says are his biggest accomplishments in life. Joey works for a medical device brand in San Diego, where he puts into practice all those leadership lessons he learned from his mom and all of his coaches. Joey, welcome to your time in the spotlight. Man, I'm so pumped to celebrate you and to connect with you today.
No, I appreciate it, Ryan. I'm humbled to be here. I love what you guys are doing on this, and jumped at the chance to be able to talk with you, and definitely appreciate you reaching out. And for sure, I'm sure we'll talk about it. But I have some good memories and some not so good memories of playing against you and those days. Awesome
there's
to
some
talk to you. Always appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. There's some good battles for sure. My guess is that we'll get some people tuning in who want an update on your mom. The last time we saw each other was just over a month ago at her retirement celebration. I know she got sick there for a little bit. How is Kathy? What's going on in her world now that she's retired?
Yeah, she's doing great. She did. She kind of caught that cold that everybody's had, I think, the last month right after that retirement ceremony, which was awesome. I think we surprised her, which is really hard to do. And I think we all appreciated being able to get back there and kind of see the look on her face and kind of hear from and feel some of the love of people around. But she's doing much better, kind of all healed up. I think their plan is actually in the next few days, or the end of this week, is to come down and kind of start nanny duties. Nina, as she's called by our kids, is everybody's excited to get Nina down here. And I know my sister is looking forward to it too. Her little son is, 3 months old now. So she's ready to jump into grandma duty for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about being in her class, having her as a mom and also as a teacher. You know, she's as beloved. You just can't put it into words, the impact she had as a Saxon. What was that impact like on your life?
Yeah, it's hard to even put into words and say without getting emotional about it, because she is the rock of our family, right? I think we grew up a big sports family, as you can imagine. My dad was gone coaching all the time, right? My dad was a college football coach, was an athletic director. That's why we moved to Salem when he got his job at Willamette. So lots of time with my mom running the show and kind of being the rock of the family, and instilling a lot of those values of just kindness above all else, right? Is just all we knew. And that was the most important thing to her. And I think being able to hear some of those stories, not to say that we're disconnected from her, but a lot of times over these years being in San Diego, we are a little disconnected from the South Salem family, as much as, we were very close and a part of it until we left. So to hear those same stories and to hear the impact is just super humbling, but is also amazing, because she deserves all those accolades. But yeah, I think above all else is everyone has a voice. Everybody matters, whether it's, the mailman or whoever it is, right? She wants to listen. She wants to understand your story. She wants you to feel understood and heard and loved. And it was that, and in spades with my sister and I growing up. She is not a huge sports person, right? She was an athlete herself when she was younger and swam, but she had to learn a lot of those things. And you would never know that talking to her. She was passionate, jumped into it because it's what we were into and what we loved. And she jumped in with her whole heart, like she does with everything. So yeah, it's hard to put into words. We're extremely blessed that she's our mom, and more importantly, that she's our kid's grandma, I think is incredible too.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk about your 4 years as a Saxon, those opportunities that you did have being here in South Salem. What do you remember most? What was special about this place?
Yeah, gosh, there's just so many good memories. I think a lot of them are tied to sports, which makes sense, right? Team sports and all that was such a big part of who I was and my experiences there. So tons of great memories with teammates, and even more so than just games or wins or whatever you remember. I remember a lot of the after the game stuff, right? Like the going to Taco Bell or Applebee's after basketball games, or having people over at our house and my mom making chili or something after football games. So I love and miss all those things. Those are things that are hard to replicate as you get away from team sports. So lots of great relationships with lots of great friends, lots of coaches too that I still connect with and stay in touch with today, which I think is pretty amazing when you think about it. It's been, gosh, too many years to like admit. I think it's almost 15 years now or something like that, right? So I think we're lots of those just long conversations and talks around how to improve as a person, not just how to be better at sports, but I think how it framed me as a person too, and just lots of friendships. I think we were lucky there that we were in the sweet spot of the time there at South Salem when it was just kind of the top of the top in Salem. We had a lot of great sports teams, but lots of great friends and lots of great relationships there too. So I think I was lucky in that I was a part of a bunch of different things and got to be in different circles and have lots of people that I still stay connected to, which I think is great. Salem is an awesome place to grow up too. So I think I don't know how many people know our full story, but we moved in middle school. So we're not from Salem originally. We lived in California.
Bay Area, right?
Yep, Bay Area. Again, dad was a football coach and kind of went that journey. So we were the coach's kids running around on the field, but we moved, gosh, when I was 12 or 13, I think. So maybe sixth, seventh grade. But an amazing place to grow up, like such a great family area. Walk down the street, ride your bike places, people's doors unlocked and stuff. So I think that part of it was great and really awesome for my sister and I, and something I hope we can kind of recreate with our kids too. But I know some people maybe don't look back on their high school years with the fondest of memories, and I'm just not one of those. I had an awesome experience. It was great. So many great teachers, mentors, friends that I'm still close with. So cherish those times for sure.
Yeah. What do you think it is about South that makes it such a special place?
I think a lot of it has to do with just the teachers and the leadership that are there. And I think some of that is just luck, right? I think some of it is just who those people are and who's kind of running the show. And, like having somebody like Guido there when I was there as the principal was amazing. I know Miss Tiffin is back around, but she was also a pretty prominent figure when I was there. All those teachers like Mr. Armstrong, Lacey and Defoe and all the people I'm forgetting, right? Like, I think it's just so many awesome people that are cultivating these young minds and relationships too. So I think that's a big part of it. When I was there, I think the really interesting part was kind of right as West was being built too. So I think we kind of lived through the shift of bringing people over from West and then having some of them leave and some of them stay. But I think that mix of kind of bringing people over from that side, at least in the time, at least athletically, there's a lot of really good athletes at that time too. So I think it helped make some of our teams better. But I think, yeah, just where it is in Salem, I think it's kind of the perfect sweet spot. But more than anything, it's the people kind of running the show there that I think drives a lot of the value and joy that comes out of there. There's always, whether it's the IB programs or other kind of community service things that South is always doing and has always been known for, is, just a testament to the people running those programs. I think we've been lucky that way for sure.
Yeah, it's an incredible place to work as well. And one of my big regrets in life, I don't know if it's a regret or so much of a wonder what that version would have ended up like, was the thing. I don't think I'm breaking any OSA rules here, but there was a certain football coach who approached me at some point in my high school career and said, "Hey, why don't you come over to South? I've got a quarterback who's going to get you the ball about 65 times instead of the 14 that I had in the
Stop
offense."
running the wing tee or whatever it was you guys were running. Yeah.
Yeah, we tried to make the most of what we had, but
You guys were
man, I had so much respect for you as a competitor, as a fellow athlete, just watching you lead your teams, even being a year ahead of you, knowing the impact you were having. And your name was one that was well honored or well thought of. I got to be friends with a lot of guys that you were friends with as well. And so just hearing how they talked about you, and our paths didn't overlap that much, but man, just thinking about if what could have been.
Exactly.
You were in the Sprague district too, right? There was
it's a funny story. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I think, but first off, thank you. Yeah. And I think some of that is just character qualities from my parents, has just been to be the humble servant leader, right? Is what they've always instilled in me. And I tried to be. So I never something I aimed to do, but to hear that they came across that way to friends and teammates is great. And I appreciate that. You guys had your successes against us too. So yeah, what could have been would have been awesome in those first couple of years too. There's that the one game we'll never forget at Sprague. It was freezing and like 7 degrees and had a
Halloween
chance
night,
to win it.
baby.
And yeah, exactly. That was great for you and an awesome memory for you. Not as great for us, but anyway, it was fun. But yeah, we were in the Sprague district. So when we first moved, that's like the funny story. I probably should have gone to Judson and should have gone to Sprague. My sister went to Judson. Um, for whatever reason, we didn't know anything about Salem, and Leslie happened to be closer to where we lived. And even though the district line said we shouldn't go there, we transferred because it was closer and I could ride my bike. And that was really what it was. And then that's kind of the history of it. So who knows, what have happened there. My sister went to South just because we were all there and followed us, but she was, she was a Judson kid too. So
Yeah,
all
well,
interesting.
it seemed to have worked out for you too,
Yeah.
meeting Sari, and the rest is
Absolutely.
history there. Talk about meeting your future wife. We both are the high school sweetheart.
Love it.
We can claim that to, our marriages are rooted in high school. So yeah, talk about your experiences. What was that like?
Yeah, no, it's my favorite story to tell, right? It's an awesome one. I'm super thankful and blessed that the timing of when West was built was the timing of when it happened, because we had that freshman year where they mixed us together, and then sophomore year is when everybody had the choice to leave. So who knows, right? It's divine timing of all that. But yeah, the funny story is she was in my little mixer group freshman year. So like when they put us together, the freshmen come a day early, but they did it a little bit differently because we were mixing with some of the Walker kids from West, right? So they tried to bring us in early and integrate and meet new people. She was in my little mixer group, and yeah, started a friendship there innocently from there. And then it kind of grew. Gosh, we went to homecoming together that fall, and, like the rest is history. So it really has been from freshman year on. She's a huge part of my story, a huge part of my success, even in high school, right? I think she was a big part of helping me be more successful, understand what it is to really work for something. She's the best athlete that I know. And I won't tell her brothers, but she's the best athlete in that family. And so I think understanding her work ethic and seeing her in action, but also being connected to her like I was, I think she helped me grow a ton. And I think the cool part we like to talk about, like, we really did kind of grow up together and see a bunch of different versions of each other and influence those different versions of each other, which is great. So, but yeah, she obviously is my rock, the center of my universe. She has been there the whole time, even through difficult times, going away to college and being away and separate. And, 2 kids now, like, you can't really talk about how much she's meant to me and to our family. She's the best person I know, best friend, all those things. But yeah, super thankful, if nothing else, that South enabled us to kind of build that family and start the foundation there. It's pretty fun to think about and look back. And when we got to go back and celebrate my mom, see some of the old pictures and some of the stuff you bring up, there's some pretty funny old football cheerleader pictures and stuff that we now get to show our kids. So yeah, super appreciative of it. I think her and I both appreciate more our time at South the further you get away from it, right? I think some of that, as you get older, you have a grander appreciation and a better sense of gratitude for all those things. So we obviously wouldn't change that for anything. We're super lucky that we got to, have the story that we do.
This is 20-year reunion, right? This year. Talk about life after graduation. You went to Stanford. What was that process like leading up to your decision? I know multiple sports, possibly playing both. Talk about what went into it for you, and then share some of those Stanford memories too.
Yeah, sure. So I definitely did want to play both. So my goal as I was going through high school was I really wanted to play football and baseball and go somewhere that would let me do both. Growing up in the Bay Area and like the shadows of Stanford and what that meant, and going to games as a kid, I think was always kind of in the back of my mind. And when it came down to it, when you have an opportunity to play at that level, at a place like that with the reputation that was there, it was just too hard to turn down. There was definitely some smaller type schools that I considered where I could have tried to play both. But I think when you had that opportunity, especially to go to a school like that, and to have the perspective, I think, from teacher parents to value your education and what that could mean for you when and if the dream doesn't work out, right, I think was a big part of that too. So it's hard though. It's definitely football, I think, is still probably my first and biggest love. I ended up probably being better and playing longer, obviously baseball wise, but it's still, my favorite sport to talk about, be a part of. My daughter's into flag football. I love coaching her in that. So I think that part of it was really difficult. Stanford is a pretty magical place. I mean, as you can imagine, there's people think that the thing that people don't realize is it's not big. The undergrad population when I was there was like 5 or 6 thousand. It's really small. And so we have a very tight knit athletic community there too. So it really did feel like the home away from home there. They do a really good job of ingraining you in that culture and making you feel cared for and taken care of. And people come from all over the world, right? Like, which is the stuff that I think is so cool and interesting. You have people that are coming from all over the world that are now, in politics and are CEOs and VPs of other places. So you're around really talented people, and it's hard not to kind of have some of that ooze into what it is you're doing, and you feel pretty motivated just to try to keep up with some of the people that are around. So that part of it I love. Lots of teammates and from our baseball team that I still stay in touch with once a year. We still all go do like a guy's trip together. Now everybody has kids and kind of changes the dynamic of those trips, but it's still super fun. And a lot of those guys are from all over the world, all over different parts of the country. So you get to know a lot of different people from different walks of life, which I'll always appreciate. Baseball was good too. When we were there, we were pretty solid. I think the funny story is my other choice of baseball was Oregon State. Those are kind of the two places that recruited me. Those are the only ones. And I don't know, there's a lot that went into it. We don't need to spend a ton of time on why I chose what I chose. But the funny part was my freshman, sophomore year, those back-to-back national championships in Oregon State. So it's kind of fun and also bittersweet to see them be so successful. But we had our run my junior year. We went to the College World Series, made it pretty far. That probably forever is my favorite athletic memories. That is probably the coolest thing that I have been a part of for sure, is that College World Series run and what it took to do that, and the 3 years leading into how hard it was for us to get there. And it's hard to replicate and explain, the sacrifice of a college student athlete and what it takes to try to play at that level. And then to kind of get over the hump to some degree and be a game or two away from a national championship was pretty awesome.
And drafted after graduation, right?
Yep. And so I think, most of the time, baseball wise, your plan and your goal is to go on this 3-year journey in college, right? You should go play, be successful for 3 years. You get drafted after your junior year. That's the plan. And a lot of people don't finish school, worry about their degrees later. You try to figure things out. Our coach at Stanford was very different. He loaded us up with credits and made sure that if your job coming in here is to be successful, I want you drafted after your junior year. But you're going to be in line to finish, and you're either going to finish early or you're going to come back for one more quarter and be ready to finish. So that was kind of always the plan. But fall, January, February, right before my junior year, I got hurt. I had a back injury, herniated disc. I had surgery. I had the whole thing. And so it kind of blew up those plans a little bit. So I was able to come back, whatever, a couple months. I was still a part of that team. That's that World Series team and great memories, but draft didn't work out that year. So I kind of chose to come back for my senior year, which I cherish. I loved that as a chance to come back from the leadership role that I was in, right? I think I got a chance to be viewed a little bit differently from some teammates in college and kind of mentor younger guys, which I appreciated being able to do. And then was lucky enough and fortunate enough to get drafted after that year by the Mets. And good experience. I think I had some teammates and friends also in the Mets organization, so that helped. But really cool memories there. Great opportunity to just focus on one thing and play baseball as a job. Although some of the stereotypes of like the rough life of minor league baseball player are pretty true. It's not like the most glamorous. I think it's almost sometimes, it is at times a step down from where you were coming from, right? You played big time D1 college baseball and playing in the World Series, and then you go there. It's a little bit humbling at times, like the journey that you got to go on. But also, I don't want to downplay that it's like not an awesome opportunity that a lot of people dream of getting. And I took as much advantage of it as I could. You play games at 7, games are over, you eat dinner late, you sleep in, you show up, you take batting practice, you play again, you rinse and repeat all summer long, right? It's pretty fun and everybody's dream as a baseball player growing up. I've had my struggles with it too. It was tough. I was a senior sign. I wasn't a big draft pick. I was always the 4th outfielder on every team that I was on. So you're kind of fighting and scrapping for your at-bats and, a little bit of a different experience and role that you're used to. But I think it's normal. A lot of people deal with it and have to figure out ways to kind of grind through it when you're not the best player on your team anymore, or you're thought of differently. And you're scrapping for playing time versus some of the alternatives. So that part of it was tough. It was far too, as much as I like, you like to portray like being the tough athlete. Like I missed home. It was far. It was on the East Coast. I'd never been over there. My first time in rookie ball was in like Brooklyn, New York, middle of New York City. So like big culture shock but still a blast, super fun. Um, Definitely a grind, and just one of those where I always told myself, kind of seeing people that I had played with that stuck it out for a long time, that, when my time came that it was over, I wasn't going to stay on too long. I was going to be okay with it being done and be ready to do other things. Um, Sari and I were engaged, I think, the last spring training that I went to, and ready to get married, um, ready to kind of ask some tough questions. Like, is this something I want to keep grinding out and doing? And then they kind of made that choice for me at the end of spring training. And, you just make the choice to turn on to the next chapter. So lots of great memories, some funny minor league stories I'm sure we can get into, maybe not here, but over beers or something, right? But I think some great memories, great coaches, great mentors, played against a lot of really great people. So fun memories for sure.
Yeah, I want to hear about that identity shift for you too. That's one of those questions that I'm really curious about for you. Before I get to that one though, not all of us are going to be professional athletes. Certainly not all of us are going to go to Stanford. What were some of the lessons that you learned from those experiences at the high level that now inform who you are as a professional, who you are as dad, who you are as partner, Sari? And what are you taking from that you now are applying forward?
Yeah. Oh, gosh, that's a big question. But yeah, I think there's a couple, like, I think character qualities that I think I really believe in, and I try to instill in our kids and try to bring to our marriage, and that I've gotten better at. I think as I've gotten older, and a big one is just presence and gratitude, right? Like, I think it's finding ways that in the moment you're in, where your feet are right now, finding all the different ways that you can be grateful and express gratitude around what it is you have. I think I spent, a lot of people do, but definitely me, spend too much time worrying about what's next, worrying about how something might work out or not work out. What should I be thinking about 5 years from now? How do I make sure that I'm ready and prepared? And you spend a lot of time worrying and having anxiety over things that just don't matter and don't provide value to you. And I can see that even in our kids are little, but you can start to see that with them too, trying to teach and instill in them, like, be where we are right now, be present, be super grateful. Let's practice and write down, what it is we're grateful for. I think we try to, at the end of every day, when we do sit down and eat together, right? Like, give me two things you were grateful for. We had a really good close friend that sadly passed away a year ago, but her whole thing with her kids that we tried to carry on to is, who did you help today and who helped you? I think some of it is, I got help. It's nice to give someone else some credit, but also, what did you do to try to go find somebody that needed something, and who did you help? Right. And I think the other one we've tried to do there too is, did you get better today? And some of that is some of the sports that comes out too, but like, what'd you do to get better? Did you improve at something? Did you help someone else? So those are big ones, I think, the presence, gratitude, and then kind of trying to incorporate every day. Who did you help? Who helped you? I think has helped us a lot. I think the other thing too, honestly, we read it a lot as a team here at work. It's called extreme ownership. There's some things in there that are really interesting too, but big one is discipline, right? Like the way that you discipline, planning, preparation is how you give yourself the freedom to perform. And whether that's in school, whether that's in sports, whether that's in life as a parent or whatever it is, right? I think finding ways to properly prep and be disciplined around those things, whether it's getting up and doing the same thing every day, making your bed when you wake up as the first thing, finding different ways that you can bring some discipline into your everyday routine kind of gives you freedom. And that's kind of the big character quality that's in that book that talks about discipline equals freedom. Yeah, those are the biggest ones I think that I'm trying to think through of character qualities there. I think the other thing too that I've always tried to emulate, and I think even learned as you get to higher levels and you kind of have to perform at those levels, you have to find ways to just be your authentic self and be accountable to your own pieces of the puzzle, right? And so I think I've tried in a bunch of ways to take ownership of what I'm responsible for, make sure that you're accountable to and can admit that when something is wrong, it's okay. You can make mistakes. You can admit that it's okay. And by creating a culture where you see someone, whether it's in a leadership role or a captain role or someone that's viewed that way, that takes accountability for it and handles those difficult situations well, just breeds a much stronger and more connected culture. So I think that's a big thing too. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, be accountable to it, be authentic, work through it together. And sounds simple, but it's hard to create that culture in the workplace that I've found. You can find some places that do it well and some places that really don't, and can be really toxic. And so I think finding ways to be accountable to things, to let kids see that you can struggle with things or make mistakes and then work through them, I think helps them understand that it's okay to do the same and maybe not be as intimidated to try new things or, to have some fear of failure, because you shouldn't have that. So I think those are probably the biggest ones.
Yeah, those are great. You mentioned work. Share what you're up to these days.
So when I finished playing, everybody told me to go sell things, because that's what they tell most people that play sports to do, right? Like, you're super competitive. You've had to work hard at things and you don't like to lose. So like, go sell things. And so
Joey,
my
what was your degree in?
yeah, sociology was what I did. So
Sociology,
Stanford, also kind of funny. Most people don't realize doesn't really have a business degree, an undergrad degree. And so you have kind of two tracks to get to business. Was either sociology, which is kind of more the interpersonal workings of the business side of it, or the straight economics route. And as much as my mom probably would have loved me to do economics, it wasn't me. So I did the business route kind of through the sociology. So it's got like this long emphasis title, but basically sociology, which a lot of it is how people work together, interpersonal relations, those types of things. So anyway, in my infinite wisdom, I joined, I followed teammates that went and worked in probably the most competitive sales industry there is, which is medical device in general. So my first job after getting cut from spring training, it's actually technically not true. My first job was Josh Van Loo letting me work at the Salem Golf Club driving range for like a month or two until I got this job in San Diego. So then my second job was at Stryker and selling medical device. So if you total joint implants, trauma implants, plates and screws. So that was kind of my trial by fire into the workplace, and was learning how to sell to surgeons and learning how to sell in hospitals, and super competitive, super stressful environment. But a great place to learn, I think, right? Like I learned a lot of things from our sales school around how to treat people, how people want to be treated, how to kind of, uncover different needs and different value propositions for people. But I learned pretty quickly that I did not like selling. So I wasn't good at it. I wasn't a big, like, I'm going to convince you to do this, whether you want me to or not kind of a person. I was more of I understand what problem you're trying to solve, and I would really like to dig into that with you and uncover ways to help you solve it and bring more value to you. And ultimately in healthcare, it's to patients at the end of it, which is what I think I appreciate so much about healthcare. So after those first like 4 or 5 crazy stressful years of being in the OR a bunch, I've now kind of transitioned to more of the marketing side, and maybe more with an emphasis in kind of product development. So I get to be a lot more hands-on and nitty-gritty with building the next version of these products that help solve some of those problems. So I've kind of found, I think, sweet spot where you still get to meet with some of those people. You're still working in healthcare. You get to understand what problems they're trying to solve for their patients, and then be a part of some of those really creative solutions around how we can build something to not just make their lives easier, but, impact patients at the end of it too. So that's something I love, passionate about. Healthcare is a really awesome field to be in because of that. You're always going to have that greater sense of purpose, which I think is great. And I've been able to get into a place where now you can be elevated in a company where you have some people that work underneath you, and you can start to cultivate that culture we were talking about earlier, where you kind of bring that team sports atmosphere to it. So I think I've been blessed in the last year to kind of have a new role where you get to have a little bit more impact on the team and the culture too, while you're also working on some pretty cool products. So that part of it's been great.
Mental health is something that's super important to you. Talk about that journey for you, what that's looked like, how you've infused that professional purpose or life purpose into your own journey. What can you share about that?
Yeah. So I think, in general, mental health, I think, holds a special place in my heart and Sari's as well. Both of us have had our mental health struggles, our anxiety struggles, that maybe most people don't realize. I think a lot of people deal with things that you don't necessarily know. And I think I'm thankful that as we've grown up and dealt with our struggles and had good people around us that could help us through those things, are creating an environment where kids now, and especially my kids as they get older, are in this environment where it's okay to talk about those things, where it maybe wasn't when, like, I was growing up, and it just wasn't commonplace, right? Your job was to hold it down and to deal with it, right? suck it up, deal with it, get tougher. It's supposed to be hard. Figure it out as you go, right? Shake it off, rub some dirt on it, all those things. So I think I struggled with it. Um, College was hard. First couple of years of college was really difficult. You're asked to perform at a different level. You're going from being super successful to being just another name on the list that you kind of got to prove yourself again for. I struggled a lot in minor league baseball in that, of trying to understand what my place was, get to a place where you really understood what your worth was, what your value was. And when you don't have the tools to deal with it, it can start to spiral on you. And so I think Sari and I both are not shy and are open about what our struggles were there, even post, first few years of marriage and what it looks like to try to figure out what your purpose is as you get ready to have a family. So yeah, I could be a whole podcast by itself, which I'd love to do, but I think we've talked a lot about, and her and I still do with our kids too, just around how to process those things, how to deal with it, how to know that it's okay that you're feeling this way or that you're struggling with something. And I think the biggest thing is helping people understand that you're not alone because it feels isolating, right? That's the biggest thing I'm sure you deal with on a daily basis, right? In the role you're in. And so I think what's most important is you're not losing it. You're not alone. You're not the only one dealing with these things. And the more you're open about talking and asking and getting help and seeking it out, the more you learn that other people are in the same boat or it's a breath of fresh air for them too, right? Like, oh man, I'm dealing with this too. And I didn't know how to talk about it. So let's figure it out together. And so I think a lot of that is a big part of what our journey is. We've definitely gone through, how to process things when you have OCD type thoughts or you have feelings of self-doubt or lack of worth or lack of purpose. Like, how can you process those things in a more healthy way? And how can you work yourself through it and improve it? And then have that turn into a superpower too, right? Like I think the gratitude thing I was talking about earlier is a big part of how you kind of get yourself through those things and you start to figure out different ways of dealing with the adversity that hits. I'm as weird as it sounds, thankful that it happens, right? Like it's really difficult to get through. You sometimes feel like you're up against the world and the weight of the world is on your shoulders. But as you can get through it, you realize that there's a purpose and a reason for that as you're able to kind of impart that wisdom on other people that then go through it. Makes you feel like a connected community that way. Our daughter deals with her own struggles, right? She's 8 and 9 years old and figuring out what that looks like. And, as the worry bug, as we call it in the house, right? Of like what you're dealing with, how to process emotions like that as you're getting older and growing, and to see her be able to do, some simple like breathing exercises and explain to some of her friends, like, you're not alone if you're struggling with this. This is how I get through it. Here's how you can do it. To see kids that are 7, 8, 9 years old do that just gives me a lot of hope, right? Because I think it's just not what we grew up with. And it's something that we figured out on the fly. And I'm thankful I had people in my life that could help me get through it. And that, when I was 20 something and trying to figure things out. But to know that generation maybe has more support and is thinking about it differently, it gives me a lot of hope. So yeah, I think mental health is something I like to talk about. It's important. Sari and I both love to talk through it. And especially with young kids, I think it's something that they just need to feel more comfortable and know that they're not alone in it and that there's a lot of people in the arena with them. And that as a community, you can kind of get through it. Things get easier, it gets better.
Yeah, what a gift to your kids too. And being on this side of it where I've got the high school students who are navigating that with and without the help of parents or a trusted adult. And that authenticity that's so important. So often in society, we're told that we have to be a certain way, or it just looks like we have to be a certain way as we fall into the comparison trap with social media. I think for our students to be able to authentically embrace those feelings and those emotions that come that sometimes are really heavy and sometimes are just, oh man, I just feel really stuck right now. So any gift that you can give your kids now and what that will translate to down the road. I'm curious, coming from my own 11-year-old daughter who has been in my office, there's a sign that I have since the day I started here at South. It says, memorize grace. It's a Bob Goff quote. Bob Goff is also a San Diegan, resident, but she encouraged me. She said, ask the people you interview, what does memorize grace mean? And I'm curious, in mental health for you, what's that connection to grace? How does that fit in and integrate into what you're sharing?
Yeah, I think, I feel like I associate grace a lot with empathy. And I think it's just a way of thinking through people showed me grace, right? I need to be shown grace sometimes and be forgiven for things, or people need to be empathetic and put themselves in my shoes to deal with and help me through some things. But same can be true for others, right? There's nothing more important than you showing grace and being empathetic to what somebody else is dealing. And I think some of that is where this mental health kind of crisis or the difficulties of getting through it can turn itself into kind of a superpower, right? You can put yourself in other people's shoes. You can relate to what they're dealing with. You can help them, like you said, embrace the feelings that they're feeling instead of trying to run away from them or fight them, which then makes them stronger, right? It's just, okay, I get it. They're here. I understand what this means. I can feel it and I can talk my way through it and I can embrace what this is. And it's not weird or strange. So yeah, I think I've been shown a ton of grace and I try to do that in as much as we can. But I think for me, in the moment you saying that, I think that's what I associate it to the most. And I think that's what we try to instill in our kids too. It's this idea of showing empathy to people. First questions after school, like who's the kid that no one's playing with and go ask them how their day's doing. That to me is much more important than what grades they're getting. As much as you want them to be successful, right? You want them to be kind and you want them to be seeking out ways to kind of connect with people that they maybe normally wouldn't. So I think that's a big part of it for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's huge. Well, let's jump into our 4 big questions today. There is a podcast there, I'm sure, that now my mind's thinking, oh gosh, how can we continue that conversation on mental health
I'd love to.
beyond this? So keep thinking on that too. But our 4 big questions today, as always, are brought to us by the Saxon Success Fund, which is a nonprofit organization that is committed to providing Saxon grads with scholarships as they pursue their lifelong goals. If anyone wants to get involved or find out more on how to help, especially now during scholarship season, they can visit saxonsuccessfund.org. So Joey, question number 1, knowing who you are today and all that you're up to, what or who, you've mentioned a lot already, but who has helped you get to this point?
Yeah, gosh, man, I think so many teachers, and I think I mentioned them earlier, right? Teachers and coaches that I still stay connected to. Like Rick Lacey is a name that always comes up. Like he calls us all the time. He's Uncle Rick to our kids. Like he's a big part of who we are in our life. And he's been a huge part of instilling a lot of those, like, discipline equals freedom and all those types of character qualities, I think is a big one. Coach Defoe, obviously, Coach Haugen, Havercroft, all the big head coaches that everybody remembers from the day. My parents are a huge part of it too. Like I'm very blessed and lucky to have parents that were super involved and engaged, and to be able to go to high school with my mom there was amazing. My dad helping be quarterback coach just because he wanted to be around, right? Like I don't know if people realize that either, but he stopped coaching when I got older. He quit and, took some random odd job that he never would have done anyway, so he could coach and be around me and my sister. So I think that part of it, they're always going to be a huge part of who I am. And I try to model as much as I can my parenting after what they've done. Obviously, Sari, we talked a lot about that, right? Like she's a huge part of my story and journey, and I wouldn't be who I am without her assistance and help. Gosh, there's a bunch of teachers too. When you sent this over too, I wanted, like Mr. Barry was one that I don't even know if he knows the impact he had on me. I loved his English class. It was a big part of what my future became and why I studied what I studied. Mr. Knoll and physics and all the science stuff, right? And so anyway, there's a ton of people that I point to from South that are still a big part of my life, which I think speaks volumes, right? It's not just stuff that you kind of dealt with during those 4 years and left. They're a big part of our family, which is awesome.
If you could go back to your high school version of yourself, question 2, what advice would you give young Joey August?
So I thought about this one a lot. I think this whole idea of being present and more grateful, I think is something that I would definitely talk to myself about. I think I was overly concerned with what people thought, more than people were probably realized. Overly concerned, and it might sound weird, but overly concerned with being super humble and respectful, right? But playing sports is just what I was and how I grew up was the way to do things. Be respectful. And I think I would try to have more fun, if that sounds strange, right? Like enjoy those moments, celebrate those big moments. Don't try to be so overly concerned with how it's going to be portrayed or how people would think. Like be present, be grateful for what those moments are, whether it's sports or athletics. But especially there, I think it would have helped me as I got into college and dealt with more adversity and struggles in college and minor league baseball. I think being able to be a little bit more free in my thinking, and have a little bit more fun as I was growing up would have served me well. I think those are things that I wish I could have done better.
What's one thing that you've learned since graduation that you wish you knew in high school? You've touched on it a little bit. Is there anything else that comes to mind?
No, I think it's just this idea of like empathy, I think comes up a lot in my life today. And maybe it's because it's so close to, what we're trying to do with our kids. And even as you start a coaching journey, right? Like it's so important for you to understand the life and, the workings of other people. So I think some of that is just how could I have done more in high school to ingrain myself in other groups, into other programs, into other community service opportunities to just get to know people more and to show more empathy to those types of people. And other people from different walks of life, right? And I think in the same, I can learn a lot more from them and could have, and vice versa. So I think that's the biggest thing. I think I've gotten better at it. It's still hard to do, but it's still something you got to practice every day. This idea of kind of empathy and gratitude, but something I wish I could have understood and maybe deeper earlier. So I think it's a cool opportunity for kids now as they grow up, and especially high school age, right? Like to have this environment of inclusion and acceptance and wanting to seek that out and be a part of what other people are dealing with, and then no judgment, get rid of judgment and just get rid of and get closer to acceptance, and whether it's something you believe in or agree with or not, an appreciation that that's what something someone's passionate about, and to be able to appreciate that, I think is something that I was able to learn more as I've gotten older. Would have been nice to understand and preach more as I was young.
Question 4, if you could transform South Salem High School in one way, what would you add or change about our school?
Man, that's a good question too. I love everything about South and what it stands for, as we kind of talked about earlier. If I could go back in time, I'd get the turf football field earlier when I was still there. So that's one, because we dealt with that muddy crown field the whole time I was there. So go back in time and give us and I always give Coach Defoe a hard time too. These are funny ones, then I'll do a serious one. But our jerseys, I told them for 4 years that we needed to have alternate blue jerseys, like Notre Dame, right? Come out in warm-ups in one uniform, go back in the locker room and come back out in the light blues. And he told me it was the worst idea ever. Year after I left, they come out there in their alternate blues. So
I had the exact same experience as South. 4 years, our head coach. Yep. And then
so
the year I leave.
Those are the silly ones that I wish I could have had more a part of there. But I think South does an awesome job with some of their community service stuff and some of their programs. And I guess the challenge would be to just figure out how you can continue to build off of that and have more ways for different people to interact with each other and bring different social groups together through different initiatives, as that being the goal. I think we did it a little bit, and I think they've gotten better with some of the community service stuff, even through my mom being able to set some of that stuff up, but to kind of carry that legacy forward and find more ways to kind of intermingle those groups so you can kind of build that sense of community, but also that sense of empathy and respect for people that maybe think differently and believe different things that you do. So it's the challenge. I think South does it better than a lot of people in a lot of places, but always ways that you can figure that out if that's kind of at the center of your goals and kind of what you want from a culture. So
yeah, it certainly is a core value of this place and the mission that as your mom steps out and Aaron Howard steps into that role, that's one of his big goals, just to continue the work forward and to keep expanding, especially in the community service realm. As we close, great. Joey, rapid fire questions brought to us by someone who has interviewed you as well, Matt Cox, one of your former teammates as well. I'm stealing some of these questions just from him, but all the work he's doing with Saucetown Properties, and are grateful for the sponsorship of this opportunity to put you in the spotlight too. So first question, what is a better feeling, crushing a pitch over a deep center field fence, throwing the deep corner fade into the end zone for a touchdown, piping a drive down the center of a fairway, or catching the perfect barrel wave on the surfboard?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I feel like it's hard to get away from crushing a ball over the center field fence. Although I have been trying to get better at golf and make a commitment to getting better. So maybe today it would be if I actually piped one down the middle, would be a pretty awesome feeling, because I don't do that a lot.
Thought I saw an Instagram video of you on the course recently.
I'm getting it. I'm working on it. I'm just trying to get to a place where I'm not an embarrassment. So I'm getting.
That's my happy place. So maybe this summer, if you're in Salem, let's find a course somewhere.
Let's definitely do it. Sounds good.
Yeah. Let's see. Favorite book that you've ever read?
Man, that's a good question. So my favorite probably book of all time from my dad got me onto it was Jonathan Livingston Seagull. So if that's not one you've read or is in the
Yeah,
rotation,
I'll add it.
do it. It's kind of sounds silly. It's about a seagull, but lots of life lessons and how to deal with adversity. And, a lot of the character stuff that we've talked about, I think comes from that book. So that's a really good one that always like one I go back to. But I'm also a big nerd at heart. The Stanford probably gives that away, but I read a lot. So I read all kinds of fiction books. I read all kinds of kind of self-help stuff too. So that's one that always I go back to. But gosh, I could spend a lot of time rattling off all the stuff that I've been reading too.
Who else should we interview?
That is also a really great question. I was thinking about this. I think one of my closest friends and still is Brian Pecor. And I think his story is very interesting, kind of what his upbringing was, difficulty of losing his dad early on, what he turned himself into, from, being a humble kind of manager on teams and then going to college and then what he's done business wise. He's somebody I really look up to when you start and someone I turn to when what hits the fan. Like he's my first call with a lot of stuff and has helped me through a lot of things too. So I think he would be great. He'd have a lot of interesting things and insight, and I think people would appreciate hearing from him.
Yeah, love that. Any last shout outs?
I mean, definitely to you. I appreciate what you're doing here. And, you were somebody I looked up to, whether you realized it or not, athletically. You're always the stud athlete, ran faster, jumped higher, did everything better than I ever could. So I appreciate you having me on, but also what you're doing and the job you're doing as counselor there. I think it's such an awesome, and important role at the school, and to know somebody like you is in it there with the kids there, I think is awesome. So I appreciate you and all you're doing and for having me on here. All those teachers we mentioned, lots of old friends that I'm not even mentioning by name, like the Kevin Sons and Hogan Barnes and all those guys that I miss and wish I could connect with closer. But were a huge part of who I was and who I am. And my parents, obviously, too, especially hopefully my mom listens to this and can get some more flowers because she deserves it. And,
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, it's a good one to end on. Joey, we appreciate you. Thanks for spending the time to be in the spotlight. And as humble as you are, being willing to allow us to celebrate your time as a Saxon and all you've got going on. Please give my best to all of your family, and can't wait for us to connect again soon.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you.
That does it for the conversation with Joey August. Joey, thanks so much for your time and for spending an afternoon with me, just catching up on life and memories and sharing your story. Appreciate you, appreciate Saxon Success Fund, and as always, appreciate Matt Cox over at Saucetown Properties. Appreciate you all for tuning in, and have a great week. We got another great one coming for you. Go Saxons.